This is a beefy Mercedes GLK whatever M something. It's a large SUV. This is an M35A2 Deuce and a half.
Please envy me if brotozers are your ride. Please envy me when you see me chugging by. 'Cause even if you have affliction, tattoos on your arms, just know that when I'm in the deuce, I do not mean you harm.
Manufactured by the General Product Division of Jeep AMC in 1970, the 6x6 drive military truck weighs 13,530 pounds dry, or 6,137 kilograms. Wet weight? 5 million. Each wheel and tire weighs 500 pounds. The engine is a multi-fuel LD 465-1, 478 cubic inch or 7.8 liter straight six. It's multi-fuel, which means it's a diesel engine that will run on a bunch of different fuels. It will run on VVF 800 diesel fuel, which is its primary source, Military F 16884 marine diesel, CITE military 46005 compression ignition fuel, military J-5624 jet fuel, commercial aviation Jet A kerosene, NATA F-34 or F-35 fuels, and lastly military G-3056 combat gasoline. The comic book style manual lists combat gas as emergency fuel because it makes the Deuce run like garbage, and if you keep using it, the motor will break. The transmission is a Spicer 3053A 5-speed manual with a dogleg first gear and swapped 4th and 5th gears in the H pattern. The transmission is then connected to a 2-speed T-136-27 transfer case. Normal drive mode is 4x6, but through a manual air shift valve, power is sent to the front wheels via drive shaft. And do not engage 6x6 at highway speeds. All differentials are Rockwell lockers, and they're locked all the time. This is government spending. Why have limited slip differentials when you can just have locked diffs and replace the tires all the time? I get it. The idea of a Deuce is that it's meant to spend its life off-road in mud, dirt, and sand, where you can get away with locked differentials because, you know, the terrain moves out of the way of the tires that are then moving at unequal lengths. But when you drive this thing around and turn this thing around in a parking lot, you feel those big tires fight. The Deuce also has an onboard air supply for your air tools, because if you're in a convoy, you are your own support group. M35s, the official trucks of sovereign citizens. Preppers love these things because, one, they're cheap. Jeff bought this non-running M35 for $3,500? Now granted, it wasn't running, he had to get it working, but wow. And turnkey examples range from $12,000 to $20,000 USD. But good luck getting parts. You're not swaggering into Advance Auto, flopping your forearms and palms on the counter like a silverback gorilla and saying, "I've got a Jeep M35. Give me an oil pump." No, all the parts are weird government PNs, photocopied and re-photocopied by some coughing ancient Xerox machine in a nicotine-stained office in Fort Indiantown Gap. So if you want to get parts for these things, you're going balls deep into some scary online forums to find replacement parts. I'm talking way darker than SteelSoldiers.com. I'm talking www.Patriot Defender USA Bootlace to Amend Combat Central Bravo Charlie Christian Loaded _click dick.net. That's where Deuce part hoarders live. And they're all named Mike. And you gotta make friends with them. Deuce and a half. Brought to you by Stolen Valor. M35A2. The official car of Uncle Mike. He saw an RKO and tried it out that night on Cousin Dieter without warning. Mike's arbitration date is Monday morning at 7:10 a.m. You own a Deuce and a half. Salute the flag. Salute every flag you see. Wake up in your rancher house for 10 big salutes. M35. My Galaxy phone has a digital camo case. Deuce and a half. My favorite movie is Lord of War, starring Nicolas Cage. I watched the AK-47 monologue scene just to nut. Deuce and a half. Brought to you by stabilized milk and half-gallon cans of baked beans. M35, the official car of spitting on the ground whenever someone says the word Ruger. Deuce and a half. Big enough to carry a dependopotamus out of your life. Real talk. If you're a civilian and you own a deuce and a half, you own an M35, do not drive to a military base with convoy numbers on the front. The guard at the gate will give you an unending shitstorm. 1970 M35A2 deuce and a half. For the man whose favorite Mexican restaurant is Taco Bell, because it's where he runs the least risk of running into a real Mexican. Seriously, how did Taco Bell win a poll for America's favorite Mexican restaurant chain? It's just shame on a tray. Yeah, maybe it hits the spot sometimes, but it's basically that one-night stand you immediately regret having the next morning. Except your walk of shame isn't back to the dorm bathroom, it's over a bicycle rack. You ever shit into a Happy Meal box? I have. These were originally built shortly after World War II by REO and Studebaker, but those were original gasoline-powered versions. Later, due to infrastructure concerns, they were redesigned to run on multiple fuels. The idea is that these things have to run no matter where you're deployed. But eventually, Studebaker was acquired by Kaiser, and Kaiser was acquired by Jeep AMC, so here we are. It inherited the deuce and a half name from a previous military truck, the GMC CCKW. Now that truck weighed 2.5 tons, hence deuce and a half. Stand on the hood for extra height, for that Memorial Day salute, the one that counts. Because it's not cleanliness that's close to godliness, it's proximity to the stars and bars. It's for Uncle Mike, who invokes 9/11 so he can shout in mixed company all the opinions he held prior to 9/11. Oh no, Uncle Mike is standing up at the wedding reception. The best man finished his speech, but now Uncle Mike wants to say something. Oh, he's raising his glass. Oh no. I just want to say a few words. You know, the Korean War was the forgotten war. Oh, God. He said he was gonna behave. With the United States of America. There were 3 manufacturers for this engine. White Motor Company, Hercules Engine, and Continental Motors Company. This engine was made by White. Its compression ratio is 22-1. The LD-465-1 makes 126 horsepower at 2,600 RPM, and 330 pound-feet of torque at 1,400 RPM, and the engine will explode at 4,000 RPM. The engine holds 22 quarts of oil, and the transmission takes 5.3 quarts, and the transfer case, 7 quarts. The differentials, 6. Although this is a 1970s model, this deuce and a half went through a substantial rebuild in 1989. It got a hardtop option, a Garwood 10,000-pound winch, which is driven off the PTO from the transfer case, brakes off of an International Semi. Now the brakes had a single circuit, so if you lose one wheel, you lose them all. But that was stock, they're dual circuit now. As for modifications, we've got an LED light conversion, Hydromax brake booster from an International Semi, a Waterloo Specialties power steering conversion, and just when we talk about bigness, look at the size of the steering shaft. It's the size of a drive shaft on a Honda Civic from the 70s. MRAP wheels and tires, a bed-mounted crane, which is there for one reason, and it's to lift the spare tire. A spin-on oil filter conversion, and there are also singled rears. They used to be dual rears, but now they're singled, and Jeff had to flip the hubs to make this happen. Stock water fording depth is 30 inches with the option of bumping it up to 78 inches with the fording kit. Because it's a military vehicle, it runs on 24 volts, so your Amazon jump pack isn't going to work on this thing. Deuce and a half. The official truck of going to a sperm bank every 2 weeks for an updated sperm count to confirm your virility. Why did Jeff buy a Deuce? He says his wife needed a larger truck one day. So she says, like, when we get another truck, can we get one that's bigger? I need to haul more mulch. He goes, yeah, I'll get a bigger truck. comes back. All the mulch you want. It was left sitting abandoned for a very long time. And he got it running about 7 months ago. It's not, you don't daily this. He drives it semi-regularly, but when you're out on the highway, this thing goes 50. Like, that's what it likes to do. It likes to do 50 miles an hour, but you show it a hill, you're going 25. You just put your four-ways on, either people are gonna go around you or they're gonna wait. In 1970, this cost the American taxpayers $43,000, which adjusted for inflation for 2018, that is $280,000. He says the max speed is 70 miles an hour, and no matter how you drive it, you're going to get between 8 to 10 miles per gallon on its 50-gallon tank. But nobody messes with you with this thing. What are you going to do? And the thing that I loved about driving this is all the bro-dozers and the diesel bros who used to be the alpha when they were leaving their house. Like, I'm the best truck on the road, and here I come. And it's so weird. You drive a Deuce and a half and just other men materialize out of the mist. A Camaro ZR1 comes out of nowhere. And that fire truck just shows up again. People gather around these things because this is a Tonka toy, which is a thing also in the Deuce community. Is to paint these things like Tonka trucks, bright orange, and put Tonka on the side because you feel like a little kid in one of these things. Because this truck was made to be driven by children, right? Who is the average driver for a Deuce and a half or a military truck? It's a 19-year-old teenager. Grab the gear shift, grip it, rip it. Do not try to shift this thing smoothly. You gotta treat it with abuse. Just... You're in fifth. Jump first. There we go. Son of a bitch. Now you're getting it. Fuck you, you whore. Now you understand that. You can get it to four now. Fourth, motherfucker. Half the time it's going the right curve. And the more you swear at it, the better it shifts. I didn't figure this out until halfway through driving it. Oh, it's loud. It had an exhaust leak, but it'd still be loud. I drove it around with the transfer case in high. It behaves like a normal, it accelerates like any commercial vehicle like that. But if you put it in low, that's for climbing hills. The correct way to drive these things is to start it out in low, with a transfer case in low, and you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, transfer case to high, back to 4, and then 5 again. That's supposedly the fastest way you can make this thing accelerate. But nothing is where you think it is, and after you're done with this, watch the video on how to start a Deuce and a half, because it's not normal. It required a 10-minute lecture to learn how to start a military truck. I didn't want to wreck the field over here, but that's all I wanted to do while in this. And so you're thinking, oh, this is the zombie apocalypse vehicle. This is the ultimate bug-out vehicle. And you're wrong. It's not. If I was facing some cataclysmic event, and I had to flee a city, I would not use a Deuce, even if it was filled up and filled with supplies. I would walk right past it to this.
Please envy me. This is a military car. Please envy me. On terrain I'll travel far. Although it only gets between 8 and 10 mpg. If you see this Deuce and a half, please envy me.